I think that families and businesses flat out need liquidity for their own well-being, and then this has all sorts of benefits for the overall macroeconomy. Sending out checks to families and individuals is going to be very important for standing those families up and ultimately standing up the economy. It's going to be money that goes back into local economies, spending at grocery stores, spending on those essential needs. So, my view and the view of my co-authors has been that we need to see multiple payments go out to families, multiple payments go out to individuals who have been impacted by the coronavirus, public health crisis, and ensuing economic crisis. We wanted to see, in payments of $1,500. We wanted to see those payments reach pretty far up the income distribution, maybe more even into the middle or upper middle income class of the United States. Ultimately, the priority here is once more to provide that cushion for individuals and families, and really to give yourself the flexibility to provide these payments multiple times. If you don't need to and the economy really does go into what we've been thinking of or hoping of as a V-shaped recovery, well, then maybe you suspend the plan. But just the notion that policymakers really need to be ready to provide this aid. And that's not even withstanding separate aid to state and local governments that are being really hard hit. Part of a broad package for America would ultimately be a progressive set of benefits where more goes to the least among us with respect to income and earnings. But the point is that the actual stimulus check payments would go further up the income distribution. Importantly, low and moderate income families should also receive that same benefit, in my view, but also alongside enhanced SNAP benefits and enhanced assistance within TANF, SNAP being the nation's food assistance program, formerly known as food stamps, boosting the maximum benefit allowable within SNAP. That's a federal policy decision. Many states are using their authority to increase availability of SNAP, but the federal government can and should continue to do more. So important for child development, so important for the overall health of the family. And then we also have some really useful policy tools through the nation's TANF program. That's the nation's traditional welfare program for low-income families. TANF in the past has had some very creative mechanisms to provide subsidized jobs for when the economy is beginning to make its comeback. And also, the federal government can look into whether and how they can boost the block grant that states receive to provide TANF so that TANF could provide larger cash benefits for those low-income families that qualify for the program. There's a larger conversation about the mix of tax revenues and expenditures that the nation needs to succeed and have long-term economic viability. So my own view is that, the Congress can put together a long-term plan where there's a mix of decisions, perhaps including some revenue raising, wherein we can show that in the long term, our budgets can be balanced. But importantly, we do have historically low interest rates. So this is the time to borrow in order to save the economy. And again, we're talking about the ability to provide investments in our young people. That is an economic growth strategy. Investments in our infrastructure, investments in our institutions and businesses. We want America to come back out of this with as little harm as possible. And so this is one of those situations where we do have a loanable funds market. We are able to borrow at historically low rates. And so my view is that among the set of alternatives we have, the pain would be worse if we elect to do nothing. And the road back would be that much more difficult. The overall goal is that there's a real inefficiency when a person has to be laid off from their job and then they have to try to interact with the human service agency that's already strained in order to receive unemployment insurance. And that's the right thing to do given our structure. But imagine, for example, then that these firms are going to try to go find those same workers weeks and months later Some of them might be permanently severed. Some of them may have moved. Many might not want to come back to their original employer. And so that's a cost. That's a cost on our economy. And so the countries that have envisioned these sorts of agreements where the government is subsidizing wages in a situation like this, well, they're spending similar levels of money as we are, if you look at the dollar for dollar. But I do think there's something promising to at least observe, to see, because it very well may be that these countries are better able to recover. Their workers, their firms will be in a position to restart business. Search costs for finding new employees rather should be far lower. My hope is that the country will envision restructuring and redefining social safety net benefits in such a way that they better cushion the economy against these sorts of negative shocks that are necessarily difficult to fully forecast for. The other piece of this then is that capitalist economies benefit from a broad set and package of social welfare policies that protect workers and protect firms. So you can have a robust social insurance and social welfare policy system within a capitalist framework. And I think that one actually helps the other. So, my own hope is that we will continue to look at our systems. We'll continue to look at how we protect individuals and families as well as businesses to learn from this. We'll also understand that, public health is actually economic policy. And I'm hopeful that this won't be a missed opportunity.